This is a SnapEd New York video presentation.
Hello and welcome today. My name is Bianca. I'm a SNAP educator with the SNAP Education Program working with City Harvest. Today I'm going to show you how to make a delicious smashed potato and kale recipe. By the end of this lesson, you will learn the health benefits of potatoes and how to prepare this easy, budget-friendly, healthy recipe.
MyPlate illustrates the 5 food groups that are the building blocks for a healthy diet. We see the 5 sections that make up MyPlate: fruits, vegetables, grains, proteins, and dairy. When looking at your own plate, vary your vegetables. It's important to incorporate a variety of vegetables since they provide necessary vitamins, minerals, and other nutrients that our bodies need to stay healthy. Aim to make half your plate fruits and vegetables with a daily goal of at least 2.5 cups of vegetables for adults.
Today we're going to learn to cook potatoes, a very versatile root veggie commonly found in most grocery stores throughout the year. They're high in both nutrients and health benefits. Unfortunately, potatoes get a bad rap, but when they're not fried, they're actually very healthy. The key is to consider them the starch of your meal. All right, guys, before we get started on our recipe, let's go over the ingredients we'll be using today. We'll be using a sweet potato, a few white potatoes, kale, and some fresh scallions. To season, we'll be using black pepper, salt, and some red pepper flakes. For our oil today, we're choosing a vegetable-based oil. Remember, when choosing an oil, choose a healthier plant-based option opposed to an animal-based option. Limiting saturated fat to less than 10% of our calories per day, starting at age 2. Plant-based oils are found in fruits and seeds, while animal oils are found beneath the skin. Before we get started on today's recipe, I made sure to wash my hands with warm water and soap. Let's go ahead and talk about our white potatoes today. Potatoes come in a variety of different colors, including purple, blue, and orange. When selecting potatoes, you want to look for ones with firm, smooth skin, free of any sprouting. Avoid ones with wrinkled skin or anything that looks green in appearance. Make sure to store your potatoes in cool, humid, dark places. Avoid putting them in the refrigerator. Plastic bags won't let them breathe, so when you come home from the grocery stores, make sure to take them out of the plastic bags. You can store potatoes anywhere from 1 week to a few months, depending on their quality. Since I'm leaving the skin of my potatoes on today, I want to make sure that they're extra clean because they are a root vegetable and they do grow in the ground. So I've already taken the time and washed a couple of them under the water in the sink, but I also want to show you another method using a veggie scrub brush. So you can just place them in some water and take a few minutes and just scrub them just to make sure they're free of any dirt. Some black spots will stay, and that's just some discoloration, and that's fine. I'm using my electric skillet right on the tabletop. You guys can do this in a pan right on the stove. I'm going to go ahead and turn my pan on to low and add my 1 to 2 tablespoons of vegetable oil and let that heat up for a few minutes while I go ahead and work on my white potatoes. There's a couple of different options for this recipe. You can take out your cheese grater and grate this potato, really easy. Today, I'm just gonna go ahead and dice it. So making sure that my fingers are tucked in, nice and safe. When working with anything that's round, you're gonna wanna cut to a flat surface. So what I'm gonna do is I am going to dice my potato. So cut it into small pieces. Now that our white potatoes are all cut up and our oil is nice and hot, we're gonna go ahead and add them all to the pan. You're gonna hear that little bit of sizzle. That's when you know your oil is ready. Let's go ahead and move on to our sweet potatoes. This recipe also calls for the use of sweet potatoes along with our white potatoes. The storing and selecting of sweet potatoes are exactly the same as we already discussed. Sweet potatoes are usually found in the color orange, but they can also come in white, pink, purple, red. Sweet potatoes are commonly advertised as being healthier than a regular potato, but actually they're both highly nutritious and packed with lots of health benefits. For the prep of our sweet potato, we're going to do the exact same thing as our white potato. We're leaving the skin on because it's highly nutritious, got lots of fiber in there. And we're going to do the same thing as our white potato. We're going to try to get it to a flat surface. So we're going to cut off both ends and go ahead and cut it in half. Sweet potatoes are a little bit tougher to cut than a white potato or a yellow potato. So go ahead and take your time. Go nice and slow, being extra careful. All right, now that my sweet potatoes are all cut up, we're going to go ahead and add them to the pan with the white potatoes. Look at sweet potatoes. I love them. I always say they're such a generous vegetable. Look how much sweet potatoes you get out of just one sweet potato. And oftentimes you'll find them pretty affordable in the grocery store. They really give you a lot of bang for your buck, right? So let's go ahead and add them to our white potatoes in our pan and let those both cook together for a few minutes. Our next ingredient is our kale, a leafy green vegetable enjoyed both raw or cooked. When selecting kale, you want to look for ones with vibrant color and leaves that are not wilted. Store kale in a plastic bag in the refrigerator for about 5 days. A really easy method for cleaning your kale is to fill a bowl with cold water. And then what you can do is place your kale in your cold water for a few minutes, allowing the dirt from the kale leaves to go to the bottom of the bowl. Once you've left it in for a few minutes, go ahead and repeat the same process. Once the water on the bottom starts to become clear and there's no longer dirt in there, you know that your kale is ready to go. Once our kale is all clean and free of dirt, we're going to go ahead and prep it for our pan. All we need to do is rip off these leaves from this thick stem. This stem is not going to get very soft. It doesn't have a lot of flavor, so we're not going to use it in our recipe. That doesn't mean you have to throw it away. You can set it aside. You can save it if you're going to make homemade stock. You can put it in the freezer and use it for compost. This is a great job to get kids involved with because it doesn't require any knives or anything sharp. All I'm going to do afterwards is just tear my kale into bite-sized pieces and go ahead and add it to my pan with my potatoes. Once our kale is in there, go ahead and give it a toss. You can see that some of our potatoes have gotten nice and crispy and got some color on them. That's exactly what we want. Although it looks like there's lots of kale in our pan right now, you're going to see as it cooks, it's going to start to shrink down. Let's go ahead and saute this for about a minute or so that everything's incorporated. Then we're going to add our 1 cup of cold water to our pot. We're going to cover and let cook for about 5 to 7 minutes until our potatoes are nice and soft. Our potato and kale have been cooking for about 5 to 7 minutes. To check for readiness, just take a spoon and feel a couple of potatoes, make sure they're nice and soft and ready to go. If not, you can always turn this on for another few minutes. Just make sure if some of that liquid is absorbed, you might have to add a little bit more water. You can see all of my water has been absorbed and everything is ready to go. Remember guys, whenever you're doing something like blending or mashing, you want to remove your food from the heat. This way to avoid anything accidental, any accidental burn. So I'm taking it out of my hot skillet and putting it into a bowl. We have a couple of different options for mashing. We can go ahead and just use a wooden spoon and get in there. We could also use a whisk, which would work perfectly fine. Or if you have the more traditional object would be, of course, a potato masher. So I'm going to go ahead and use my masher, take a few minutes here, and I'm just going to mash it to the texture that I like it. So I like my potatoes still a little bit lumpy, so I'm not going to make it completely smooth. If you really wanted a smooth potato, you could also use an immersion hand blender, or you can put it in an actual blender, and then this way your potatoes would be really smooth. So I'm going to go ahead and mash up my potatoes and kale. Now that my potatoes and kale are mashed, I'm going to set this aside and finish up with the rest of my ingredients. Let's go ahead and talk about our green onions or scallions. Green onions are very mild and frequently eaten raw. They contain a white bulb and a long green stalk. The entire thing can be eaten. When storing scallions, fill a glass with about an inch worth of water, stand your scallions up, cover them with a plastic wrap, and put them in the refrigerator, and they'll stay crisp for about a week. I'm going to use about 3 stalks of scallions today. Make sure that they're cleaned very well. There could be some extra dirt on the ends. I'm going to go ahead and cut the very ends of them off and then slice them very thin. As you can see, I've used most of my scallions except for the very tips that are a little bit damaged and the bottom. So no waste here. We're using the entire thing. Let's go ahead and add this into our potato kale mash. All right, time to season. We have our black pepper, our red pepper flakes, and our salt. By adding different types of pepper in there, we're able to limit the amount of salt that we're adding to a dish. Making things from scratch and creating your own seasonings and spices will help you control the amount and the exact items that you're adding to a dish. We're gonna do about a teaspoon of black pepper, a teaspoon of red pepper flakes because I like mine spicy, and then about a half teaspoon of our salt. Remember, when you're seasoning, less is more. You're always able to go back and add more seasoning. So I always like to say, under season, make sure you're tasting your food, and then adjust as you go. This recipe yields about 4 servings each at a half a cup per serving. This will count towards your daily adult value of 2.5 cups of vegetables per day. A serving size of vegetables is about a half a cup, or 1 cupped fist worth. Let's go ahead and portion this out. Let's get a nice big amount, about a half a cup, right on our plate. I've reserved some of those chopped up scallions right for the top to kind of garnish and make look pretty. Awesome. Doesn't that look delicious, guys? Research shows that long-term healthy eating patterns have the greatest positive effect on our health. It's all about the pattern of eating rather than making those healthy choices just some of the time. Thanks so much for joining me today as we learn that the 5 food groups that make up MyPlate are the building blocks for a healthy diet. We learned how to make this delicious recipe that can be either used as a side dish or a main meal using potatoes and kale. Remember, small changes in what we eat can make a really big difference. I just want to say thank you again for joining me. I hope you try out this recipe and hope to see you again soon.
Thank you for joining us today. We know the healthy choice isn't always the easiest choice, but small changes can make a big difference. Start today by getting involved with SNAP Ed New York. This program is free for those who qualify or receive SNAP benefits. We want to help you save time, save money, and eat healthy. Learn how SNAP Ed can make a difference in your life. For more information and to find your local program, visit snapedny.org. This material is funded by USDA's Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program. SNAP. This institution is an equal opportunity provider.